So, it is December 2023 while I'm recording this. In this past few months, I started my very first semester of college. And as anyone who has ever been in even a single semester of college would know, that means I had to experience some really hard classes that I definitely was not expecting, that I was not used to in any way, that just blew me away with how difficult they were right off from the start. And yeah, I was amazed by it. I was struggling at the beginning of this year, both because of that and because I was taking some of the hardest college classes you can imagine, the science classes like biology and chemistry, and the labs for both of those as well. So very hard stuff. I remember my first few tests, I didn't know how I was supposed to know any of this stuff. Like, they were asking me questions I had no idea that were going to be even on the test, which is largely my own fault because I didn't study well enough, but still, I was just amazed. And I didn't get the worst grades, but I was getting like B's and C's, not ever an A. I remember like in my second biology test, my first biology test, I got like an 80 on. And for the second one, I studied so much harder. I studied like so many hours more than I did for the first one. I felt like so well versed with the material. And I thought like, this time I'm gonna like dominate this test. But in the end, I got an 83, 3 points higher than the first one for so much extra effort. And that was just demoralizing. You gotta feel bad when you spend all this time and you just improve by only 3 points on the test. So for most people, they'd kind of just give up and kind of accept the bad grade. And that was basically what I was going to do. But I still kept trying to work hard. I kept studying many hours for every single test, trying to play to my outs, do what I could to get the best grade I could. And slowly but surely, I started showing a little bit of improvement. For example, in biology, I remember on like test number 4, I got like a 93 on, which was considerably higher than my first few tests, rather than just 3 points. And then in chemistry as well, I started getting A's, started improving that as well. This was until I took my final biology test, which I ended up getting a 100 on. In my final chemistry test, which I got like a 96 on. And finally, in the end, with the final exams, I also did well on those. And I ended up, through a very slim margin, getting an A in the class in the end. An A in every single class. So why am I telling you all this? To put it simply, I do think school is a waste of time, for the most part. School doesn't really teach you important things for life. We all know this. You're never going to use almost anything you learn in school in real life. It's really a waste of time, and the amount of stress it puts on people, it's just not good, to put it quite simply. But I do see one piece of value in it. I see one glimmer of hope, so to speak, which is the fact that school does teach you about discipline and about constant improvement. I remember when I was studying for that like biology test number 3 and 4, I didn't just use the same study methods. I was forced to look and see what I was doing wrong, how can I improve this for the future, how can I make sure what I study is the stuff that'll actually be on the test, what was the problems that I was suffering from, how can I improve those and remedy them for the final few tests. And that it is something that you will use in real life. That is something that is important and prevalent no matter what you're doing. No matter if it's biology, whether it's chemistry, whether it's business, whether it's law, whether it's just any kind of job or profession, you're going to need to be able to identify problems and figure out the best way to solve them. This year of school really taught me that. Like, I was struggling and I was forced to really look at what I was doing and really try to find ways to improve. If you want to see a whole video about the exact methods I used, I'll put it up on the screen now, but there's basically a 5-step problem-solving method that I use to kind of remedy this problem that really helps me a lot. Another important thing that school can teach you is to try to find fun in the boring activities. I remember for my chemistry final, while studying, I kind of found some fun while doing it. Like, I just was practicing all these problems. I kind of turned it into like a video game, like see how many can I get right. And the whole time I was like listening to podcasts and music, so it was like fun in that way as well. And by the end of the class, I went from like hating chemistry at the beginning of the class to kind of enjoying it a bit by the end. So I found fun in one of the most boring subjects you can probably ever imagine. Something as boring as adding elements together and seeing which one comes out. It's like not really that interesting, but I ended up finding some kind of fun in it as well. So that's another important thing that school can teach you, is how to find fun in even the most monotonous of activities. And a final thing that you can gain from school is dealing with difficult people. This was another thing that I struggled with tremendously throughout this year. Not necessarily the students, but the teachers. Having to deal with teachers who maybe you don't agree with, that you don't particularly like on a social or emotional level, is very hard to not just hate everything when you're with a teacher who you may not like as much as you would hope to. But through school, you also learn how to deal with these people. Like, how can you still get good grades despite the teacher and the teaching methods, and you improve in that way as well, which is another thing that is important no matter what profession you're in, no matter what you're working on. You have to be able to deal with people, especially those that you may not like very much. So yeah, those are a few things that this year of school taught me. Let me know what your thoughts are on school in the comment section below. Do you hate it? Probably. But do you see value in the things I'm saying? Do you understand the points I'm making? Anyways, this has been Jimmy, signing off.